I'm sure some people, it's going to take them a few more episodes. But for me, this was a great episode for Nate.
Yep. Hey sports nerds, welcome to a Nerdy Bunch review of Ted Lasso Season 3, Episode 5. My name's English Dave, and joining me is my shite in knighting armor, my co-host Tim Sportsman. What's up, Tim?
You said it right, Brody. What's up? What's up, Dave? My shite in knighting armor.
My shite in knighting armor. Yes.
Just say that? Yes, I believe I did. Sorry, I'm sorry sometimes.
This episode of Ted Lasso is titled Signs, and there's many signs. You know, there's ripped up signs, psychic signs. People are seeing signs everywhere. What does it mean? We're here to find out. Tim, we pick up this episode a month later. They have gone, and a month later, and on top of that, they've gone 7 weeks without victory. How would you feel as a coach?
It's rough. I'm glad Ted at least cares a little. I don't know if Rebecca fully cares about Richmond right now. I feel like everybody wants her to care more about Richmond. Mm-hmm. Even the doctor's like, go Richmond. She's like, stop. I just want to know if I could have kids. But you're right. There was romantic signs. There were psychic signs. It was all about the signs, all about the vibes this episode.
Mm-hmm. And trying to fix things, right? Why are things going wrong? I like the opening, you know, with the commentators saying the issue isn't the players, the issue is in the dugout, the coaching staff, which is interesting because we get a tiny moment, but I don't think it's going away, where Higgins says to Rebecca, we might have to think about firing Ted. Ooh.
Like, do you want to fire Ted? He's like, no, I don't want to, but what else? We know in sports, it all comes down to the coach, especially football. They sack the coach instantly if something's going wrong.
Some teams have gone through like 3 coaches in like a month.
Yeah, right? Oh my God.
So
honestly, from a sports angle, I was really disappointed not to see Tottenham and Liverpool in the top 10. Right? Seeing Richmond drop to 9 sucked, but then I was like, wait, come on. Newcastle's 10th. Tottenham can't even get top 10. This sucks.
Hey, Arsenal was number 3, so I'm happy.
Yeah, no, it was pretty legit. Man City was up there, of course.
Yes.
West Ham, Man U. But I was like, come on, Everton? We're better than that.
Let's talk about the characters in this episode. You mentioned Man City. They're preparing for a game against Man City. You know, the big game against Man City. And you know, what I like about this, and we've talked about it a lot in Ted Lasso, you know, they set up these like big games, but they don't win. You know, you're thinking, okay, this is the one, they're going to figure it out, and they don't win. But let's go back a bit. We spoke about Rebecca. Let's start with Rebecca here. She's kind of coming off the after effects of the psychic's message to her. And at first she was like, whatever, I don't believe in this stuff that my mom believes in. But then after last week's episode with the green matchbox, that's when she was like, ooh. And she tries to get rid of it this episode. It doesn't work. And that's when she meets her ex, when his wife to be, she's the one that says the shite in 90 armor. I'm still not sure what that means in terms of why she's.
I think it was just something odd that you can't ignore. You know, nobody would purposely say it in that way. So it's like, I cannot deny if that's what you're going to project. Like, if you told me that's exactly what my date will say, like, come on. Like, that's right. The odds are so slim. Exactly.
But then it's like, why is the significance who says it? Or is it just to say it? You know what I'm saying? Like, are we going to see those characters again? Or is it just the words? You know, I'm interested. Did you notice?
Did Rebecca ever had sex with him?
Yeah, right. Did you notice he had did you notice he had a scarf with Man U and Man City on it?
Of course. Like, come on. Get out of here. There was a guy, I don't know when. There was a guy, maybe season 1, there was something like that, where he had Man City and Man U.
Yeah.
And it was definitely something we spoke of.
Maybe it was the same guy. Because I can't remember if we've seen him before.
Yeah, I think it could have definitely been the same guy. That makes sense. Who else would do that, right?
Right.
Yeah, it must have been that date. You're right.
And then they also mentioned her going to Dr. Wagner, you know, to find out if she can have children. At first, you know, he seems to give promise, right? By saying, "Oh no, many women your age or even older than you have helped them." So because at first she thinks, "No, it definitely can't happen," and even though we don't get him saying, you won't be able to bear children," we assume that from her reaction, right? We don't hear the words, but her reaction almost tells us that that's what's going on. Um, but I think what's interesting is that it it almost she starts to look at it. She wants to call someone. She feels alone in this moment, right? You look at someone like her ex Rupert. He's got his winning team. He's got his girl or wife. I don't think they're married. He's got his baby. He's got everything. Her team is losing,
Secretary that he's fucking.
right? Her team is losing.
Yeah.
She has no
Yeah.
significant other in her life. And now when she's trying to call Keely's not even there to pick up. So there's that
Yep.
kind of loneliness for Rebecca. I'm interested to see where Rebecca's storyline is going. Where do you think it's going, Tim? I don't know. I really don't know.
Keely's deep in Jack's throat right now.
Right.
Having a good old time.
Can I tell
That
you?
was awesome.
Well,
Just Jack's personality is just great. It's perfect for Keely. I
no,
love it.
I
Very
love Jack.
supportive.
What
Yeah.
I find interesting, actually, let's just pivot there. What I find interesting in that is that at first I wasn't quite sure. I could see the signs. The episode's called Signs. I could see the signs at first of like Jack feeling Keely. I was like, oh, Jack kind of likes Keely. I thought Jack was going to make the first move. I saw something coming. I just didn't expect Keely to make the first move. I was like, oh, okay, this is interesting. And what I like about this is that let's go back the setup of all of that because Keely was supposed to go. They were supposed to go to the game, and Jack, with the help of Barbara, kind of advised Keely to fire Shandy. What do you think of
Right.
that firing and Shandy's whole meltdown after being fired?
Well, as we said last episode, that was the only thing I could absolutely predict. We knew Keely was going to fire Shandy. Shandy comes in with the fucker dating apps,
Oh, I
getting with
love that.
celebrities, and she's drunk at 4 a.m. Calls
Call
this
it.
girl Emma, who's the glasses designer, with this new idea about condoms for your balls. It's
Like,
like
what is
on
that?
brand for Shandy. Yeah, I'm like, this is not the type of company we're looking
Right.
for. This like boutique marketing firm. Like Keely's high class at this point. She doesn't need a girl like Shandy. So that was definitely predictable. But the like you said, Jack helping Keely fire Shandy, giving her advice because Keely's not that type of woman that wants to do that.
It's a
She
friend.
didn't want to, she didn't want to fire Shandy, but she had to. She knew it, And Shandy thinks she's doing a fantastic job. When your boss asks you, "Hey, can we talk for a second?" You're like, "How about like 30 minutes from now?" While you're right there, like probably texting some dude. Like, come on, come on. But then she like fires out, and she's like, I'll double your salary. I just want any of you." And Dan's like, "I'll come." And he's like, "No, not you, Dad. I don't want you."
But at the end, she's like, "Come on, Dan, let's go."
Yeah. Yeah.
And
He's
Dan's
like,
like,
"No,
"Oh
no, no,
no."
I can't do it." And then he goes to what's what's the girl's name? The uptight one that you just mentioned. It's
Oh,
Jack
Barbara.
and Barbara. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Shandy goes to Barbara and it's like, "How about you, Barbara? I need you." It's like, that is the absolute last thing I would ever want to do is go with you.
Though
That was
Barbara
a
wanted to
killer.
watch.
And then
She wanted to watch.
Shandy gets fired,
Yeah.
drops like this goat that's shitting all over the place, and that's how the romantic tension
Yeah.
happens between Keely and Jack. It's perfect.
Well, I think that's the other sign, right? She left that whole goat situation, and that whole situation, like you said, leads up to them having to stay and all that kind of stuff,
Yep.
that relationship kind of presenting itself. I'm anxious to see where this goes because the show has a habit of employers dating their employees because technically Jack is Keely's employer. And outside of like I have no problem with the relationship. Outside of that, I'm interested to see where that goes. And kind of curious at that. And what I also like about this, and I wonder if it's kind of like setting us up for it. We spoke about Colin last week. We found out that Colin is hiding the fact that he's gay, and he's hiding the fact
Sure.
that he has a partner. But now we're seeing this. I don't know if this is going to build into a relationship, but we're seeing this, and I wonder if this is going to influence that, right?
So we got a little Easter egg about Trent Krim, though. I
Ah,
don't know if you
yes,
noticed, but his
yes, we did.
mug, little rainbow mug,
Yes,
And
so
Trent's got
maybe.
that kind of personality. Not saying gay guys all have to act the same, but
Mm.
there's no way, as I mentioned a couple episodes ago, there's no way Trent's gonna out Colin.
No,
No,
I don't
no,
think Trent's that guy, especially because this
not.
episode, when the coaching
Yeah,
staff's trying to figure out like how to do it, he kind of offers help. At first, he's not so sure because he's like, maybe I shouldn't get involved. And I love when they're like, oh, he's just like one of those nature people watching these poor animals getting killed.
right. Dude, they're so funny, man.
I
The
love
Diamond
that.
Dogs at it again.
I love that. Um, let's go to the team itself.
Let's go.
Um,
7 weeks, no
oof,
wins as we started
oof,
this episode out.
oof.
Zaba's hitting all the goals. Nobody
And it's
else
still
could
not
do
enough.
anything. Team chemistry sucks. But Jamie's trying. Jamie's
He's
coming.
trying.
And now, not to spoiler alert, but Zaba's gone. Zaba's retired.
You know,
Zaba's on his avocado farm having a good old time with his family.
talking to not his followers, his believers. And he doesn't watch movies. He only watches his wife. She's the only
You're
entertainment.
welcome.
What I find
Christina
interesting
must
about
be a
that,
stunner.
right? I don't look at other people. They're all blurry. Other women are blurry. Only sees his wife with clarity. What I find interesting is that when Zava was introduced in this show, we had all our perceptions of where the Zava narrative would go. And I don't know. We could probably see Zava again. I don't think Zava's narrative is closed out just yet. I think there's a way we're going to see Zava in some form. But what I like is that Zava was never really, really showcased as a bad guy. You know,
No,
he has a bit of like ego to him, and it's all about him. When it's like, together you can do anything. He separates himself from the team, and even like after Jamie gives that big speech, he kind of literally takes Jamie's speech and kind of makes it for himself. So
mhm,
he has got those tendencies, but he was never an asshole that disrupted the team in the sense that we thought he would. And I think this show does an interesting job of kind of pulling the rug from under us. So, like, we even thought that he would leave for another team, and like Ted said, at least he retired. He didn't leave us.
yeah.
At least he retired. So, what do you think of the Zava storyline and its maybe conclusion so far?
It's like Keely going to Jack. It's like Roy can't be upset. I mean, it's probably going to be, but if your girlfriend ends up being gay, it's like, I guess she just doesn't like guys anymore.
Yeah.
Moves for your soulmate, type of
Right,
thing.
right,
That
right,
would,
right.
but yeah, Zaba's gone. I don't know if they'll come back. I have no idea where they'll go with that. I get the sense. I know not to jump the gun, but we've been thinking Nate's going to be all of a sudden a good guy. And there was many, many, many signs throughout this episode showing Nate's lighter side, his genuine heart, the reason why he loves that restaurant. But the team specifically, it ended with Jamie waking up at 4 a.m. the next episode, gonna go right back at it with Roy. They're definitely gonna be able to win a couple of matches. There's no
Oh,
way. But
that's
at
a
least they're in the middle of the pack where they're probably
mhm.
not gonna get relegated. But you never know. I think at the end of the episode, Ted has this beautiful speech about belief and
I
that the
love that.
sign is just a thing. You need to believe in yourself. You need to believe we will get better. You need to believe that you deserve to be loved no matter what happens. You deserve that belief comes from within. So let's gather together. We don't need Zaba. Zaba doesn't make us a team. It's like there's just toy that we're forcing the ball to because he's so talented, and everybody thinks we're absolute trash without Zaba, absolute trash with Zaba. So we might as well go get relegated. But this
You
team's too good for that because Ted and his heart and the way he could rally the troops.
It's funny you say that because I think one thing that they can learn from Zava, ironically, is that self belief. Because there's no one that believes in themselves more than Zava. Like,
That's
you know,
true. That's
criticize him or
true.
anything, but he's never going to let anyone get in his way of believing in himself. And I
That's
think
true.
in that way, it's almost like they should be inspired by Zava. I loved earlier on, we were like, what? We should have handcuffed him to the locker and make him love us. And they were like, yeah, we could have tried. And I love
I love
that.
just Danny Rojas's admiration for him.
He just
He could
loves
do no
Zava.
wrong.
He was so upset.
Um,
Oh my goodness. No, I think you're right. I think what I liked about that whole speech is true because the way they reacted, like, you know, you're a sports fan, sports fans and athletes themselves it's easy to fall into the trap of superstition, right? Every most teams have have their traditions or superstitions. You have some players who put something in their sock. You know, doesn't like Messi have like a thing in his on his sock or something like that? Or you know, different teams have their thing. And so when I even felt it, you know, when the sign we've seen previous episodes before, when Nate ripped the sign, like as the audience, you're like, oh my god, what the
like
hell? So
that's
it's
a
not
sign.
and then yeah, it's a sign and I love that kind of like shutting that down and especially because that belief sign has become such a staple of the show but
Sure.
it's so on brand for Ted and the show to be like it's just a sign if you believe in yourself inside nobody can tear that apart you know no one
No.
I kind of thought that was a great kind of morale boost for the team I love before the game when they're going out and then Roy's giving them like the little kind of push it was like peel them
Yeah.
slice them cut them, mash it. I'm not playing. Okay, cheer to your voice bleeds.
It goes to Colin, exactly. But then Colin does play.
Right, he
Colin
does
does
play.
play because Zava it doesn't show up, and they're so pissed.
Right.
Roy's like, he better be dead. Roy has some crazy moments when like Henry,
Oh, I was gonna
you
go
know,
to
they
that.
don't know if Henry's a bully,
He
but
was
he has
involved
this
in a
whole speech
bullying.
about like pummeling, tunneling, like,
He goes
oh
dip
my
the rope
god,
in red paint, so when the person
yeah,
wakes up, they think it's their blood.
yeah.
What?
And when they wake up, you beat him again. It's
Right,
like,
right.
right,
That it is good for Ted to know that his peeps have his back. Because even Beard was like, "That's it. We can figure out a flight. We can go out there. We can find this bully." Like instantly, they're already.
yeah. We'll land
But
by
then,
12 p.m. and at
right.
12:30, he'll be toast.
But then it's interesting to find out, and I love this flip again, such a classic Ted Lasso move, to find out that Henry was the bully. Oh,
Yeah,
interesting. You know, and it almost kind of worries Ted to a point where he almost gets another panic attack. Everything starts, you know, he's worried about his son. Oh my God, what have I done? I'm not there as a father. And maybe because I'm not there, he's going to fall into this trap of becoming this kind of kid. And I'm not sure where they're going with this storyline. Like, is Henry a good kid or is he starting trouble? Because, you know, when he tells his dad, oh, I apologize in rap, because, you know, hip hop songs are a great way to get a message across.
like the message. Thank you,
He likes
Knox.
the message. I love it. I love it. But I'm
Of
wondering
course.
if Henry was telling his dad what his dad wants to hear, or was Henry telling the truth in terms of like, I'm sorry and apologize? Because it was very quick. Yes, Dad, I should have
Yeah,
listened to you. I didn't listen to your count to 10, all that kind of thing. You know, as kids grow, you know, they change, you know, and Ted's missing a important part of Henry's life. So I'm curious if that's going to come back. What do you think?
well, yeah, I think you're right. Maybe Henry's lying a little bit, and it's tough. You don't want to listen to your parents. But Nate wants to get his mom's advice, or at least I love when Nate calls his mom,
That was brilliant.
Anastasia. He gets Anastasia's number. And then all of a sudden he like gives her a call. It's like, hey, would you like to go out for
I was
another
like, ooh,
drink?
okay.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you're so smooth. Like, mom, what do you think? That was good. But yeah, going to Henry, I mean, it was obviously a surprise. Little Ted Lasso 1-1 switch. Didn't expect him to be the bully, but
Hmm.
we sensed Ted's anxiety throughout the whole episode. I loved the scene when Ted was staring at John Wooden's triangle, something that came up in probably the first season.
Hmm.
Uh, and he's just, so John Wooden's triangle basically is about how to be a good teammate.
Hmm.
And he's trying to figure out, like, all right, now that Jamie Tart is going to become a good leader and Roy is a good coach, maybe Nate comes back and helps Richmond, but he needs to take care of this team. I don't know how he's going to be able to help Henry without being there. Or how do you deal with that? How do you like so much of parenting, I'm sure, is about like physically being there. When you could only rely on this, like if this was my pure communication with my son over Zoom, like over FaceTime,
There's a
how do you
disconnection.
get to him? How do you get to him? And how do you not be anxious? Like,
Hmm.
I don't have answers, but you feel it. You truly
Mhm.
feel it. And especially an Apple show talking about FaceTime, talking about, yes, we have this technology that connects us, but there's still this gap. There's so
Mhm.
much you can avoid. You can't see what's over here in this corner. I can completely lie to you. There's a staircase. I'm
Mhm.
100%
Mhm.
telling you, but do you know that?
Yeah,
You've
that's
never
true.
seen that. You only see this perspective right here in this box, you know? So it's so much easier for Henry to lie to him, and kids lie to their parents even when
All the
they're
time.
right there and they can read their journals. So, like, of
Mhm.
course, Henry's gonna lie to him.
And just telling, and again, because instantly, as soon as Ted starts the conversation, Henry's like, I should have listened to you, Dad. I didn't do the thing you taught me about the counting 10. Like instantly, like saying the things that'll make your parent, because we all know how to kind of manipulate our parents, as you get older, what do they want
Yeah,
to hear? Let's just say the things they want to hear. And you mentioned about, not being there. I like the moment where he's speaking to his ex-wife and she's like, oh yeah, Jake took Henry to the park. And there's a subtle moment, if you notice, I don't know if you noticed, I didn't notice this, my wife noticed this. When his wife picks up the phone, Ted is about to pour himself a glass of water. But as soon as she says Jake took Henry to the park, he puts the water down and grabs a bottle of whiskey and pours that instead. Because it's just a subtle moment, but it's such a character thing to be like, he's like, fuck, I want to be there to help Henry. But this other guy, Jake, who was our marriage counselor, we didn't go further in that narrative, but it's the seeds are there of like, oh yeah, that's still happening. It's
yeah.
just another thing for Ted to have to deal with. I just thought, oof, sorry, Ted.
Oh, yeah,
That's
and
and
Keely's going straight to the vodka, you know?
I,
But I hear you there.
but
I hear that.
Jack,
It's our
Jack drinks it,
way. Oh, yeah, Jack's cool. Jack's like, "Yeah,
swigs.
charter's cool, like, we woke up and and drank warm vodka for breakfast, come on." She's like, "I'm not easily surprised, but damn, that's surprising." But, yeah, I mean, it's a good sign. Dude, there's so much. I mean, the writing, as always, is so brilliant. Higgins with his amazing one-liners. It Everybody had their own
What was
situation.
Higgins' line again? You mentioned it off podcast. I forget what was it?
Yeah, it was,
Higgins.
so Higgins gets a text, and it says, "Even with Zava, Richmond eats arse, more arse than your mom." And Roy's like, "You gotta stay off Twitter," or Beard. I think Beard says, "You
Yeah,
gotta stay off Twitter." And he's like,
yeah.
"No, that text was from my father." It's like, "Oh, shit."
And if you break that down, it's like your father's saying eats more ass than your mum.
Yeah, his mom,
Possibly his
meaning
wife,
I got my ass
father's
eat.
wife. Like,
Like, I
there's
don't
so
need
many
to know
layers.
that. I don't need to know that. Higgins has
Oh,
another great line where, we're talking about the psychic in the room in the office with Rebecca when
yeah.
he's like, "Yeah, yeah, I believe in psychics. A psychic told me all 5 kids."
Mm,
And, something about, like, pissing, I have this line somewhere,
yeah.
like, pissing on the toilet seat, trying to keep the, toilet seat clean. It's practically impossible. It's somewhere here.
Oh, boys. I like that line because it's almost like, well, did you have five? Did the psychic predict you'd have 5 kids, or did you have 5 kids because you believe the psychic was right? you know, did you go
Well,
like, we
something
have
like
to have five
that,
kids?
you can't really control that. I mean, I
Right.
guess you could in a way, like spinning eggs or something, but yeah, I don't know. This
Uh,
episode is definitely all about Rebecca. I know you brought it up in the beginning, and like always, I asked yourself, of course.
well, we got back and
Uh,
forth through her, right?
sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
But basically, she's destined to believe this now.
Mm,
But what
yes.
happens
Yes.
next? You know
What
what?
happens next? If Dr. Wagner gave her bad news that she can't have children, the psychic never said you will give birth. She said you'll be a mother. It's not necessarily the same thing. And you and I kind of spoke about a theory that's going on the internet that she could be a mother to Sassy's daughter because Rebecca and Sassy's daughter already have a good relationship. I think she might even be her godmother, if I remember correctly. So it could be through that way. It's just how will it present itself? Which would be again, this show is able to do things in ways we don't see coming. Um, and speaking of that, let's talk about Nate. What this show has been doing this season. You kind of mentioned it earlier. Is
Yeah.
that even though we came into, we kind of ended last season and came into this season as "fuck you, Nate, you're the villain. We hate you and everything." But man, Tim, they kind of making me feel sympathy for Nate. They do this great balance of of having this level of charm for Nate, especially like with Anastasia. Like she's bored, he brings her to this place. It's a big deal for him, and she's like, "This is shitty," and you almost get see like his heart being broken with that. And then she kind of like, "I've got to check something with my friend." She just runs into the car with all her friends and just leaves, and just like, and I think the audience is almost like Jade is almost the audience representative, right? Where Jade initially was like, "Ugh, this guy," but then after a while, she kind of starts warming up to him. She feels sorry for him, she feels bad for him, and kind of ends up having dinner with him, or at least sitting with him because Anastasia left. Where do you think Jade and Nate? Do you think that's going to happen, or just Nate in general? The Wonder Kid. He's realizing that maybe he's not up for this like flashy big life. Anastasia wants to go to a flashy restaurant. He's happy just to be where he is. Where do you think Nate's going now?
Well, as you predicted, Nate's gonna come back to the light side. We're gonna like Nate. I'm sure some people, it's gonna take them a few more episodes, but for me, this was a great episode for Nate.
Yep.
I'm already liking him again. Maybe it's because I'm a nice guy, probably. But I have empathy for him. I feel bad for him. He doesn't want to be with a girl like Anastasia. The
No,
fact that the secretary still gives the number and he tries, but that's not the girl for him.
this isn't
The
his life.
hostess is a better fit. And we saw signs
Hmm.
throughout the episode
There you go.
that there was something going on with the hostess. She kept giving looks. I didn't know what was
Yeah,
going on.
yeah.
I'm sure G knew exactly what was going on. You're sitting there right next to your wife. I'm sure she knew way more than me, if we asked her opinion. But he has a nice line about the baklava being divine, and she has a
Yeah.
little chuckle about it. And we just sense like Nate's sweet side again.
Hmm.
And maybe he goes to Rupert and tells him, you know what? I'm done with this. I don't need this. I don't want to be in this dark black office. I don't need these fancy cars. I don't want to go to fancy restaurants. I can't date a 6 foot tall supermodel like Anastasia. That's not my thing. Let me go back to Richmond. Best case scenario, get back with the Diamond Dogs. Get back on the light side. Help Richmond get top four. Probably not because Ted Lasso wouldn't be so cookie
Hmm.
cutter like that. Or maybe they at least draw against West Ham.
Hmm.
They have a matchup again later in the season. I think Nate comes back to Richmond. I
Yeah.
think, just like you were saying, now all of a sudden, this was the one episode. All of a sudden, we're liking Nate again. He's sweet. He's kind. This is a really important restaurant for him. This is all the best moments of his life. His family
Hmm.
gets together. They come here. Maybe the food looks like vomit. All right, but it tastes amazing. And
Hmm.
she's just uptight and wants it for the Instagram, wants the flashy cars and the loud music and the fun party atmosphere. That's not Nate. That's not Nate. Back in season one, this guy barely could speak to Ted. He
Hmm.
didn't even want to look at his face. And now he's trying to be smug. We didn't like him because he had that almost false confidence. And nobody likes that. We could
No.
sniff out bullshit all day, you know? But I knew he was a good guy. Deep down, 2% of me, real deep, was rooting for him. But this was the episode. I'm like, you know what? He's not my best friend, sure, but I want the best for him.
Yeah. And again, it's just you see more and more when you look at Nate's journey in hindsight that he's just someone that kind of was misled. You know, when you think this is what you want and you get it and you realize, actually, no, it's not what I wanted. On the magazines, on the TV, being called the Wonder Kid, he thought, yeah, that's success, that's happiness, and realizing that you had the happiness, success all along. Stop trying to please people. Stop trying to be someone that other people tell you to be. Someone, especially someone like Rupert. Rupert's pushing him to be this person. Don't apologize to Ted. Do this and be like this, and realizing and date this woman, and realizing no, like let me be who I am. And I have a prediction. I just thought of it just now. It could be wrong. What if the show, because we know this is possibly the final season, right? I think I don't think he'll be fired, but I think Ted will go back to the States. And I think Nate might become the new coach. I'm just saying.
Sure.
It could happen. Nate could
I
end up
mean,
being the coach.
this whole season was tearing Ted away from this country.
Mhm,
You know, Coach Beard's literally only there for him.
mhm,
I think him and Coach Beard's like, no problem, I'll do anything for you, Ted.
mhm,
And
mhm.
Ted needs to be there with his family. Rebecca
Yeah,
and him
yeah.
need like the same thing. They
Mhm,
need that family, that comfort, that support. They're alone, they're isolated, but they're good, genuine heart people.
mhm,
But you need somebody. And once you have that like power player next to you, that makes you exponentially better. And that's what we're
mhm,
all searching for in life, right?
mhm,
Just someone to like fully support them and ride through life with them and cheer them on and humble them when they need to too. And Nate needs more support and less of a bad father, like Rupert now is that like bad influential father.
mhm.
He needs to maybe speak to his mom and dad a little bit more. Nate does, uh, but
Mhm.
but Ted's a good guy. We want Ted to be closer to his son Henry, and that's what it's all about. I like that prediction, man. Come back to the U.S., Ted. We love you.
um, they're going to find it interesting that I feel like by Ted's nature, he's going to be at least interested in listening to Nate's apology if one comes, but I don't know if the team is ready for that, right? Because I think the team is more hurt. Because Ted's a nice
Oh
guy;
yeah,
he's a more forgiving guy, right? Ted's easily, in fact, too nice. Some might say, but I don't know if the team. That's going to be a tough hurdle. The team already kind of, especially watching him rip the sign and all this kind of stuff. I think the team might have a bit of issues with that. But then again, what's Ted Lasso without drama? And I think that will add the drama itself. But we'll see where that goes.
yeah, that's true.
Did you notice that the Ussie has gained traction?
Ah, it
did
has.
you did you notice when he was
Huge
like, "Yeah, we
fact.
took an Ussie with
Yeah, that
Anthony
thing is so
Hopkins"?
weird. Like, I didn't force you to be a celebrity. It's like, bro, you took her to Hamilton on the first date. What kind of relationship is this? And you're getting married after a couple of months? Like, come on,
Right? No,
this
you
is
can
not
still tell
right.
he kind of still has feelings for Rebecca. He's like, "Oh yeah, we used to
Oh
come to
yeah,
this restaurant. That's not why I brought her here." He's like,
I'm not stalking you.
"Are you sure?"
Oh man,
Because at first I was like, "Wait, are they trying to bring him back together with Rebecca?" And I'm like, "Oh no, I don't know. I think it's just for a joke."
yeah,
I love when he mentioned that. Oh yeah, my date. She went to Oxford for a bit.
yeah. He's
She didn't go
smart.
to Oxford. She was for a bit. She's smart. While the past there, like, oh, I liked it when the speech earlier on was like, no video games before bedtime unless it's Animal Crossing. That shit's fucking soothing. I gotta tell you,
I knew you'd
my
like
wife,
that.
my wife plays Animal
Yep,
Crossing. She's got
yep.
like 500 hours in that game. It's insane.
Yeah.
Uh, anything else? Before we got out. Oh, when the commentators like, these guys are terrible. My church league is better than them.
My church league has a few athletes. Yeah, that
Right.
was fun.
But I think this episode is a great episode that's setting us up for, because I think we're coming into the back. We're in the back half of the season now, and it's setting us up for where we might be going. Where's Rebecca going? What's her narrative with the psychic going? Is she going to be a mother? What's happening with the team? Where will the team end up? Will they be still in the Premier League, or will they be at least in the top half of the Premier League? What's happening with Jamie and Roy? That training, are we going to see a significant difference in Jamie's skill level and talent here as a player? Maybe Jamie becomes team captain at some point. I don't know. He's becoming a leader. They're almost like setting him up for this leadership role. Every time the team feels down or has negative feelings, he's the one that's like, "Come on, guys, we can do it." So maybe are they setting him to be? I could see him being team captain at some point, getting that promotion to team captain. Is Ted going to stay in the States, or is he going to want to go back to his son? What's happening with Jack and Keely? Is that going to be a relationship, or is that just a fun in the moment, I need to get these things out situation? So many kind of building things. Shit. Will Shandy come back and just out of nowhere have a successful app? I could see that happening. Like suddenly, her app is just everywhere. Maybe Rupert became her investor, and then because I could see Rupert would invest in shit like
Oh, Rupert.
that.
Okay, okay.
you know, so where
Yeah,
could it go?
the
This
Starfucker app just explodes. It's like,
right, right.
okay, okay.
So
Hey, people like it. People like it,
people.
you know?
I mean, there's there's something for everybody, right? There's something for everybody out there. So like I could see these things coming back. Like what wrenches are going to be thrown into the machine to kind of mess this up? And again, I don't think it was for nothing to throw Higgins worried about having to fire Ted. I don't think that's going away. I think that conversation is coming back again, at least as a conversation. Even though Rebecca wants to ignore it, I think even as a conversation that might come back if they keep losing. Because what this show does a good job of, it's a good job of giving us time, right? It's not like, oh, last week's episode, this week came straight after. They've had a whole month of games in between, so they could go through another couple of weeks of losing games. Maybe the season's going towards relegation, and that's where they have to start talking about maybe we need a new coach. These are as much as with sports, you know this very well, that as much as you can love someone's personality, if you're not delivering, you're not delivering.
Winning cures all.
Yep. Yep. I liked when Ted comes back from the bathroom and he says to Coach, "Oh, look, no pee drops on my khakis."
It's like 115 days straight of no pee drops. Such an old man problem. Oh my god! But I've heard that constantly.
I love that. I love that.
Dave, there's only 7 more episodes. And this series is definitely going to end.
Yeah,
this series is definitely over after the season.
Definitely. Yeah. I like when Barbara's like, "Don't check my drawers."
Yeah.
I mean it.
It's like,
I want
Jack's
what's
like,
in there.
We're definitely going to check the drawers.
Yeah, right.
Like,
I want to know what was in there.
Tell me no. Yeah.
What's in her drawers? Listeners, find us on social media at The Nerdy Bunch. Let us know, what do you think is in Barbara's drawers? We know that she likes to collect snow globes, but that wasn't in the drawers. Those were outside of the drawers. So I'm curious, what does she like to hide? I like her.
Sex toys.
Right. I mean, Barbara, I wouldn't be super surprised because as much as she seems so tight, there's a side of her that I'm like, I know you, Barbara. I see you.
Relate, yeah. And she asks you, when Kiwi's like, "You want to come to the game?" It's like, "Is it going to be as violent as last match?" And she's like, "No. Probably not." It's like, "Nah, I'm good. I don't need to come."
She wanted to get there. She loved the violence, and I love that. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, Dave.
My name's English Dave, and this has been a Nerdy Bunch presentation of Ted Lasso Season 3, Episode 7, and I'm loving this show more and more and more. And as always, Tim,
keep it nerdy.
Peace.